It's the RJ Ochoa Show on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. What's going on in Jerry's world? What's the latest from Cowboy Camp? Find out right here, Friday mornings at 7:30 and 9:30 with the manager and editor-in-chief of Blogging the Boys, RJ Ochoa. Here's Robin Rudy.
We are being organically searched for, Rudy. It's R&R in the morning here on San Antonio Sports Star. He's Rudy J. I'm Rob Thompson. And organically, he has appeared on my YouTube feed. You want to prove it to yourself, go there, and you will see RJ Ochoa doing a thumb trick in front of your very eyes on a Friday morning. Good morning, RJ. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and all those platitudes that I missed in the last couple of weeks. Good to see you this morning, my friend.
Yeah, great to be with y'all. Happy 2024. Hope you guys haven't up riding the date at all.
Have you put a thumb on it yet?
I don't know if that's an expression or a euphemism, but
it's a question.
No, let him go. Don't worry about that. Yeah. RJ, you got a haircut. Did he mean to go that short? It looks good. Or did they get you?
It's funny you asked that. A few haircuts ago, I used to get a 5 on top and a 1 on the side. And I accidentally asked for a 1 on top and a 5 on the side.
So you
now you would think I did ask for that. Like I'm gonna own this. But you would think that anybody
would say, "Are you sure?"
Said, yeah, anybody would have said, "You don't want that." I was kind of lost. I was with my son and I was holding him and I was all scatterbrained. And so he just said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah." Like it didn't seem unorthodox for me. And so he was like, "Okay." So he did the 1, and I was like, I was like,
"Dude, dug in."
Yeah. But so since then, I've realized I like a 3 on top as opposed to a 5. So I did get it cut yesterday. But that was that happened to be the day before my son's birthday party. So my wife was not happy with me.
Give me the shimp. One of the Three Stooges when I'm done. He's RJ Ochoa, and he's looking pretty good. Go find out for yourself on the YouTube feed. Hey, we just had Mike McCarthy on talking about the game coming up this weekend, and he'd been talking a whole lot about momentum and getting ready for us. Put the Commanders game in perspective for the average fan.
I mean, I recognize that the Cowboys have clinched a playoff spot, so you could put it in the same box as you maybe put the Detroit game and the Miami game and even the Buffalo game for that matter. But given what's at stake, given that they can win the NFC East and clinch the 2 seed, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10 on the level of importance and panic and stress. The Cowboys, I don't know if you guys know, they've only hosted a divisional round playoff game twice since the Super Bowl run in the 90s. I mean, think about that. Like, we talk about how, the drought is and all these things. And granted, they lost both of those games. But, that was also at a time where they weren't riding a 16-game home winning streak. I mean, the advantage that this offers is paramount. It's vital. It's absolutely necessary. And beyond, you got to win that first playoff game, obviously. Nobody's acting like that's a foregone conclusion. But beyond having those 2 possible games at home, you have the third possible game at home, being the conference championship game if San Francisco slips up. And perhaps most importantly, you guarantee that you avoid the Niners until at the very least the NFC championship game. Nobody else can offer that. Nobody else can claim that. And so that makes Sunday one of the most important days in the 21st century in the history of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and I love these type of things when RJ's on. Let me see. 2 divisional playoff games since the 90s. I want to say 2007 Patrick Creighton drop on 3rd down, and Aaron Rodgers, best throw I've ever seen in my life on 3rd and a mile.
Those
right?
Those are the 2. Yeah, those are the 2. And both of those instances, the Cowboys were the 1 seed, not even the 2. So they didn't even have to play a wild card game before that. And obviously, that 2016 season, they were playing with a little bit of house money, and that it was Gakenzeek's rookie year, and rookie quarterback still has never done this. And so it was kind of hard to really believe that was the one. But this is the best kind of combination of qualities. This feels like the best Cowboys team, the most experienced Cowboys team. Even that 2017, they'd been to the playoffs the year before, but they hadn't been hardened 2 years prior the way that this year's team had. And that 2016 team it was so many new faces. I mean, again, it was the rookie year for Dak
Mhm.
and Zeke. I mean, this is a collective group that has some scar tissue that has been built up together because of the way they've been through the last couple of years.
What would you think would bite them in the butt? The inability to run the ball or the inability to stop the run?
I mean, if it's one of the two, it's probably the
Yeah.
latter, because you give an opponent the ability to control everything and take the ball out of the hands of the most important and most powerful aspect of your team, which is the passing game. And so if you can keep Dak Prescott off the field, I mean, that's a good day of work for you. And I'm excited about Dan Quinn. I think that the Cowboys defense has turned a little bit of a corner. It was certainly a bit demoralizing how he just took his foot all the way off the gas on that final drive against Detroit. But, nobody wants to talk about that. People only want to talk about the penalty and, Mike McCarthy's decision. But, Dan Quinn completely and totally just letting Detroit waltz down the field. Who cares? I mean, it's Dan.
And he did it against Miami the week before. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, cast stones at the man who criticizes Dan Quinn, because that's the way things go. He has the most Teflon exterior I've ever seen among anybody associated with the Cowboys in recent history.
I saw an NFL Players Association poll where they polled Jim Fossil as the preeminent special teams coach in football. Dan Quinn did not get the defensive nod, which he probably would have at the beginning of the season, but it was the DC for the Lions. Former cornerback Aaron name fell off my brain. What I'm getting at here with the Cowboys as they head into the playoffs, and this season this game matters. Coming off of a game where the Cowboys finally won one that they probably shouldn't have. When was the last time the Cowboys won a game that you go, man, we got lucky, and this was sure everything but us was the reason we won? Can you remember one?
I mean, if you're qualifying it that way, some people might go as far back as the last significant game against Detroit in that building, the 2014 wild card game, when the flag against Anthony Hitchens was
picked up.
That's right.
I mean,
you know what? I'd forgotten about that.
Good one.
I would
Detroit.
offer, though, pick a Cooper Rush game last year. You're not supposed to win those games.
Good point.
They stole those games. I mean, in the grand scheme of things. I mean, and so they went 4-1. I mean, without the most important player on their team. And so, nothing in recent history will have the pizzazz that the Lions win had. And I look, I'm firmly on record that it was a penalty. The whole I'm in agreement with everyone. Right. I have the chalk opinion, but the idea that Dan Campbell is also skating by is hilarious to me. I mean, and it's complete and total, result of how likable he is and how big of a talker he is at the podium, because the initial decision to go for it carried an increase in win probability for the Lions. Okay, respect. But the moment that they had to move back off of the penalty, which we could sit here and debate, obviously, carried a negative win probability. And so did the third attempt. I mean, imagine if that had been Mike McCarthy.
Oh my God.
And Mike's face, drove in the face of negative win probability out of stubbornness. I mean, he'd be getting completely and totally, just lambasted by everybody.
We're joined by RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys. RJ, I'm really, really concerned. Like I see the narrative that the Cowboys have been pushing on Tyler Smith. Now, Wednesday, we were joined by Doc Garrett of Veracity, and he's calling BS. He doesn't see that this is a better thing than just a partial tear. And he said he'd be shocked. And Mike McCarthy he's not going to give us too much, obviously, but he didn't seem overconfident about the availability of Tyler Smith going forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a doctor.
Me neither. That's why I asked the doctor. So I was like, he's like, I don't know if that's better.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask the question then, and I asked McCarthy this. Last time we were dealing with this, we had a pretty different line shuffle. What do you expect if Smith's not ready to go?
I mean, it's probably TJ Bass.
Is it?
Who came in for him. That makes the most sense. And I think the Cowboys, because they're the only ones who believe in this, they would say, this is why we put Tyron at left tackle.
Okay.
Everybody wanted us to put Tyler at left tackle. So, if Tyler had been our left tackle, we'd be screwed right now. It just happened to break that way. But I agree that, I'm not totally just letting them spoon this, spoonful of sugar into me. I mean, the fact that they just randomly went out and signed Lyle Collins and that he then
Yeah.
took snaps at left guard is a little bit funky. But I mean, I don't know. For what it's worth, this same thing did happen to Tony Pollard, last year, I think it was. And so it's not like unheard of, but I mean, the situation and the critical nature of it certainly makes me believe that the more negative outcome is far more likely in this situation.
Is McCarthy safe no matter how this plays out?
I mean,
I'm talking about
the
wild
most
card
popular-
division. Regardless, 3 12 win seasons in a row. Is he safe no matter how it plays out?
He should be.
I agree.
I
agree.
I mean, like, I'm not above saying that you can have a conversation if they just get smoked in the wild card round. If the Packers come to town and they just, they get boat raced, then, fine, a conversation is well worth it. But if you can acknowledge that, what is happening here is unprecedented in, the 21st century for this team, then I don't think you're being fair. Is he without flaws? No. Point me to the human being, not just NFL coach or play caller that is. But this is what you wanted. You signed up to be in the tournament every year. You signed up to have an incredible home field advantage. You signed up to take care of division rivals. You signed up to take them seriously among football dignitaries. And that's what Mike McCarthy has done here. And so people asked a lot at the beginning of the season, like, well, if he doesn't reach the NFC Championship game, is he fired? It's like, well, how does that not happen? Like, does he lose in the division round because there's a clang off of a Brandon Aubrey field goal to win the game? Like, is it because they lose 53 to 10? Like, what are the circumstances and what's the context surrounding their, demise? And so I think that's also worth, offering on the other side of the spectrum. If they, for whatever reason, were just completely unprepared, they had all the penalties, they whined and complained about it, things like that, then yeah, maybe you do have a conversation. But for the most part, I have a very difficult time saying that moving on from him is in the best interest of the football team.
He's RJ Ochoa of Blogging the Boys. Make sure you're following him on all the socials to be a true Cowboy fan. Ceedee Lamb has met every expectation and been incredible this season, and obviously he's carrying them through the last game specifically. For him to be successful, slot the guys that need to be successful to help him out. Is a successful tight end day better than a successful Brandon Cooks day in order to get Ceedee to get those 10 catches and all the things that they're using him in to make up for a poor running game?
I do think that as far as Ceedee is concerned, it's probably more necessary for Jake Ferguson's domino to fall. You need that middle of the field to kind of be conquered and a threat, a viable one for Ceedee to kind of be able to run around and roam. But for the success of the team, it's probably Brandon Cooks, if that makes sense, because, we're talking about a game that the Cowboys won by the skin of their teeth, where Ceedee Lamb had over 200 yards receiving, was completely and totally unstoppable. And yet there were still moments that other plays had to be made. And Brandon Cooks was the one who was able to do that. Like you can literally get a career day from Ceedee Lamb and still need more as an overall, kind of functioning offense. And I think that was the lesson that we really learned last year. It was the Ceedee Lamb show, and that was simply not enough. And so Brandon Cooks caught, what you could kind of qualify as the game-winning touchdown, I suppose. Obviously, there was the obvious field goal at the end, but you have to have that. I mean, again, in the name of the over, I mean, as far as Ceedee is concerned, you need Jake Ferguson to be, kind of dominating for him to thrive in a particularly different way. But for the overall kind of good of the group, it has to be Brandon Cooks. You need that tried and true opposite receiving threat to command the other side of the field.
I know in the NFL, RJ, we're supposed to be parity and we don't know. Look, I'm not playing that game. It's going to be San Fran or Dallas that comes out of the NFC. That's just my prediction. But who would be your dark horse? And for the sake of this game, you can't say Philly.
Well, I don't think that
you wouldn't be Philly anyway. So who would be your? Is it the Rams? Who's your dark horse? That's the 07 Giants that come from the 6th seed. Like, who is it?
Right. I would like to say it's a real shame what Philly's going through. I mean, just a true bummer.
Still awful.
Yeah, right.
Worm and toil and it's just, I feel really badly for them. But the answer is probably the Rams, and that's where I wrote an article yesterday. I appreciate y'all showing my tweet. I wrote an article that Carson Wentz is kind of an important figure in what's going to happen here. He's going to start at quarterback for the Rams on Sunday against the Niners, who are going to start Sam Darnold. I want the Rams, and I think every Cowboys fan should want the Rams to be the 6th seed in this equation, because not only does that guarantee that the Cowboys, who presumably win on Sunday, would avoid them as the 7th seed, but we want the Rams to go to Detroit, because I think that the Rams have the best chance of upsetting Detroit. And if that happens and the Cowboys take care of business in the wild card round themselves, the Rams go to San Francisco. The Rams stand the best chance of all NFC playoff teams, the Cowboys included, in my mind, of upsetting the Niners. I'm not saying it's a good chance, but they do have the best chance. I mean, they're division rivals. Sean McVay obviously is a great coach. Matthew Stafford's playing out of his mind. So the Rams certainly have that potential. And if things break for them the right way, if they get that 0-7 Giants luck or whatever you want to call it, obviously all the more. But the Rams are truly what terrifies me the most. I certainly think that the Packers will be a difficult out. Jordan Love's playing really well. But the Eagles, I think are a little bit DOA. The Bucs, nobody's taken seriously this whole time. And the Lions just saw their head coach throw away a potential win in the name of proving, himself right in the face of NFL officials.
So what's the matchup if Detroit wins?
Yeah, that's the one that bothers me. Detroit, man.
Go ahead.
If Detroit wins, and we presume that the Cowboys win, obviously,
right.
Round, then Dallas hosts Detroit, and Dan Campbell will give the rah-rah speech of all time.
Gotcha.
And the winner of the NFC South Philadelphia Eagles game will go to San Francisco. And I don't think any of us think that the Bucs or Saints or Eagles have a real kind of snowball's chance in hell. Yeah, beat the Niners.
That's RJ Ochoa of Blogging the Boys. Off the top of your head, when was the last time the Cowboys won on grass?
This season they beat the Panthers.
Was it on grass?
I believe.
Okay. Yes.
But for what it's worth, the last playoff win they had.
In Tampa.
Last year at Tampa, they wore their cursed navy jerseys. I mean, it was on a Monday night and all that against Tom Brady. So they can do it. I mean, it's a weird run of coincidences and why they haven't been able to. But even if you think they can, that's why getting the 2 seed is such a twist of fate for them.
He is RJ Ochoa, our own personal twist of fate.
My guy, a 1 and a 5 haircut.
A 1 and a 5 in that order.
Happy New Year, brother.
It was my fault, and I want to acknowledge that. But you would think that the person would have said, "I think you're saying this incorrectly," especially because I had my son and I'd gotten his haircut. So it would have been kind for them to be like, "I think you've got your wires crossed." Nobody would ask for this.
Did they spin you around? Spin you around and you look at yourself with the hair longer on the sides than the top?
No, I mean,
that's what I wanted.
Straight in the mirror. And the worst part was he did the one first. You know what I mean? And so it was immediate, and I was like, oh. And then he had the gall after, I was like, oh man, I clearly messed up. He was like, I asked you, I double checked. And I was like, dude, I know that. Like, I'm gonna pay for this. It was my fault, but you still kind of left me out to dry here. So it was a cap day for the birthday party, to say the least.
It's the best thing ever happened to you, and you figured out why. We're now a 3 type.
Yeah, 3s. They're all up.
Rock and roll. That's RJ Ochoa right here on San Antonio Sports Star. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next.
One love. Y'all eat some chocolate pudding before the weekend's over.
Oh, I will.